Welcome back to the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. This is where we discuss all phases of the game of football, including philosophy, play concepts, questions, and more. Joining me today is Coach Ethan Diederich. Coach Diederich is the junior high head coach at Hanover High School in Hanover, Kansas. Coach Diederich is heading into year 5 as the junior high head coach, all coming in the same position at Hanover. In his 5 years, his teams have consistently shown more improvement, including solid seasons in the past 2 years, 6-1, and then 5-2 last year. Well, Coach, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always love talking about football. So
Start with some background info about yourself and how you got into coaching.
sure, yeah. So grew up, went to Hanover High School in Hanover, Kansas here from 2008 to 2011. The 4 seasons I was a part of. My freshman and sophomore year, we won state titles back to back. Junior year, we got sub-state runner-up. The team that beat us had a good running back on the other end there. His name is Mitch Ingleton. So we battled each other a lot in high school, obviously, as you know. And then my senior year, we didn't make playoffs, but I got to play all 4 years under Coach Matt Hoyer. Ended up being lucky enough to get a scholarship to play at Benedictine College at the NAIA level. Went there for a season, and due to some injuries and as well as kind of wanting to go, knew I wanted to come back home, and I wasn't sure what I was going to study at Benedictine, so I ended up going to K-State and going into ag business, and ended up moving back home, and so anyway, that ended up working out for me. But I only played 1 year at Benedictine College as a linebacker there. And then, what got me into coaching, I started, originally I started officiating basketball games, probably 5 years ago now. I always wanted to get back into sports, and I always thought about coaching. And anyway, I got my start officiating. And then about a year after officiating some basketball games, I got offered the junior high football job here at Hanover, and I went with it. So I did a year of both officiating and coaching. And then after that second year of officiating, going into my second year coaching, I decided just to do the coaching gig, and going into year 5 this year. And so, that's kind of how I got my start in coaching.
Going back to college there for a second, talk a little bit about playing linebacker. Coming from 8-man, going into defense in college, what was that like?
For me, and maybe I could have treated it a little bit different. I always have, they say 20/20 vision after the fact, but I was just a young kid and probably didn't take full advantage of my college opportunity. But for me, I was playing middle linebacker, so maybe I'm wrong saying this. I only played 1 year of 11-man football, which was that year at Benedictine. All the other years I played was 8-man. And the middle linebacker at Benedictine, the way I played it was very similar to how I played linebacker at Hanover High School. So, I wasn't like an edge rush or anything like that. I was trying to help stuff the run in the middle and take the middle of the field away. So, so it was pretty similar style the way I played it. But maybe someone who plays 11-man tell me I was doing something wrong. But
So then when you were in high school, you guys were reading guards probably at linebacker?
yeah.
And then kind of the same deal, still reading the offensive line in college too?
Yep, I pretty well focused on the interior lineman as a middle linebacker, and was trying to initially read that first step and then see where the play was going from there. That's kind of how I treated it.
And jump back even a little more. In high school defense, you guys ran 3-2, 3-3. I honestly forget.
Yeah, we ran a 3-2-3. Sometimes that monster or that safety, whatever you want to call him, an 8-man, we call him the monster back, but he'd creep up a little bit. But primarily we played 3-2 base.
Obviously, playing under Coach Hoyer, and then you got to coach with him here. And I know now you're just doing the junior high. But what was that like, transferring back and forth from your playing days under him into coaching alongside him? What was that like?
Yeah, obviously as a player, I don't want to say I had tunnel vision, but to a certain degree I did. I was focused. I played all 4 years as a fullback and a linebacker, so I'm not necessarily thinking too much about everyone else's job other than, who's supposed to block where and what hole I'm supposed to find when I'm running if I get the ball. But playing with Coach Hoyer, I mean, he has a brilliant mind. He's very creative on the offensive end. And obviously he knows how to coach good defense too. But as a player, really, I guess I was just more focused on my job and what I was supposed to do. But he was intense. He showed us how to do things right, and how to win. And then coaching with him, kind of the reason I wanted to get into coaching was, again, obviously I love the sport and I wanted to give back to it. But being able to coach with him, and under him, I guess my first 2 years I coached, I was an assistant with the high school as well as the head junior high coach. And so I was helping watch film with him, and filming their games for them. And yeah, I'd really just try to pick his mind on what he sees. Because like my first year coming into coaching, I was going off of kind of the things that we were running similar when I was in high school, which was a little more run focused. And obviously the style of play has changed a lot. It was about 10 years apart from when I was playing to when I started coaching again. So I wasn't doing the best job coaching my first year there. We didn't watch enough film, or really any film, at my first year in the junior high level. And so I wasn't really super prepared. I was probably focused more on the fundamentals at the junior high level than I was preparing them, game by game, if you will. But yeah, just being able to pick his mind on seeing what he sees, and trying to coach the way he coaches for these kids. So that way, as far as like terminology and things like that, that's my main goal coming into every year, is getting those junior high kids ready to play as freshmen. When they're freshmen, they're not wasting their season trying to learn the lingo, trying to understand his fundamentals, what he wants every position to do. I'm trying to just make that basically a 6-year program instead of a 4-year program. So
You probably learned a lot more, obviously, on the flip side, coaching with them there pretty quickly. But and then
yeah,
one of the other things you said there, watching film at the junior high level, that's kind of relatively new. When we were in junior high, at least, maybe you were different. We didn't watch our film. Nobody filmed it other than a parent might have filmed it, for the
right.
kid. But did you guys watch film back when you were in junior high?
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. So and then that's why I didn't think about it, at the junior high level. Obviously, the high school level, you do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as the junior high goes, I was, like I said, really trying to harp on the fundamentals of how to tackle, how to keep them safe, and teach them the how and the why instead of here's what our opponents are going to do. Simple things that I didn't think about. I hadn't been to a junior high game in forever, since my little brother was in junior high, probably, and that would have been 2010 or something like that. But where like even the simple things like they can't kick the ball for touchbacks most of the time, so they're either squibbing it or onside it most of the time, and things like that, where I just didn't have the kids prepared for those the first couple games. And as far as picking up things with Hoyer, yeah, it definitely helped me get the gears turning a little bit. That coming into year two, didn't have a great record that year, but we started watching film and we were a little bit more prepared for what was coming, and we were right there on a couple of games where it could have made us a 500 team or better if the ball bounced the right way.
I was the same way with film when I was a junior high head coach there for a couple of years. I mean, at first anyway, I didn't plan on filming, but then our junior high practice time was built during the day. It was actually the first hour from about 8 to 9:20 ish or whatever, which sucked when it was cold out in the morning. But we had sixth, seventh, and eighth grade PE for that first hour. And sixth graders obviously can't play junior high football. So they were our managers automatically. And so we were like, well, we got all of you guys. Let's have at least one of you go film, or or two. And so that was a
Right.
great way to take advantage of that. And then obviously film is if you're not filming nowadays, you're behind. But yeah, I didn't look at film going into junior high the same, or I viewed it the same way you did when you first
Yeah.
went in. I mean, not really thinking that was a thing, but obviously it's a big thing now. So here, talking a little more about that, or I guess since I brought that up a little bit, but when do you guys practice? When do you guys watch film? Talk about your film study and how
Yeah.
your
So
week
I guess
practice works.
our typical week schedule, how I like to structure our week is Monday, we will watch film on our opponents, anything we got. What helps in junior high is you're pretty consistently playing the same schedule. And so you have past films, you can go back and watch what they did against you, or, this year's opponents. So we like to watch film on our opponents on Monday, do our little offensive install on that Monday, a little bit of review for offense, and then we obviously go over what we think we need to attack defensively on our opponents, and then we have a defensive minded practice, so defensive drills. Every day we're stretching, we're kicking, doing some special teams things, kicking and punting wise, but then we're focused pretty much on defense on Monday. Tuesday, it's an offensive practice. So going over that install again, running through several plays, as well as some other fundamental drills. Obviously, junior high, you're doing a lot more fundamentals than anything else. But yeah, it's an offensive minded practice on Tuesday. Wednesday, we go over all 6 aspects of the game, all 4 special teams in both offense and defense. And well, my first 3 years, we didn't have enough kids to really have a scout team. So last year was my first year. We had 16 kids go out. So we had a full offense versus a full defense. And that helps a lot too when you're not having to play against an imaginary defender or something like that, where you could read the defense a little better and what we're looking for. But yeah, so that's our Wednesday practice. It's a full practice, all 6 aspects. Obviously, Thursdays are game days, and then Friday it's just a light conditioning day. We'll have them run for penalties or turnovers or things like that. Run some sprints for those, and then we'll come back in and watch film on the game and see what we could do better and what we did right. So that's how our typical week looks. And we can't have practice during the day. I'm a Rule 10 coach, so I don't really know their school schedules, but typically I don't think we've ever had practice during the day. Usually the school hours are for PE or maybe you can make it a PE class where you have football practice, but for the most part we've never done that. So it's always just right after school.
And how long you guys practice usually?
It just depends. It takes us a little bit longer the first couple weeks, just because, especially at the junior high level, some of these kids have never even played tackle football until this season. So again, teaching them the hows and the whys of why we're doing everything. So it takes a little bit of time, but I usually get them out of there before 6:30. Somewhere between 6:30 is the goal. I've hardly ever ran past 6:30. By the time they're out of school, the school bell rings at 3:30. So really, by the time they're out of school and they get dressed and they're stretched, ready to go, it's almost 4 o'clock by the time we're getting into some heavy football stuff. So
It's good to have that extra time. I think we talked about this a different time, but having that extra time to review and to reteach everything is all new to them for the most part.
right. Especially towards the end of the season when we were doing some of the same drills over and over. And again, it's just to harp those fundamentals. And the kids that have those fundamentals down can get bored with that, and their attention span is gone. But that's why I kind of like to do some new installs, try to focus week by week on what our opponent does, so that way it's not as monotonous and not as boring. Because you have to give them new tasks, you have to give them something new to focus on, or their attention's gone. So
Add some fun in there every once in a while and change it up, like you said, just to
yeah.
regain their focus. Yeah. And that happens with high school too. I mean, probably not as much, but yeah. I'm jumping back here a little bit. I've personally not and won't ever get to coach in my hometown, unfortunately, since the school's gone. But talk about what it's like, growing up, not necessarily in Hanover, but near Hanover, and then going to your hometown school and being a junior high coach now. Talk about coaching for your hometown school?
Yeah, well, as you kind of touched on, I actually ended up growing up, about 30 minutes, so 25 miles, somewhere in there between, south of Greenleaf is where I grew up. And so if you're unfamiliar with the territory, it's, yeah, like I said, about 25 miles from Hanover. There were a couple of other schools that might have been a little bit closer, but I ended up going to Hanover because they had a Catholic grade school and no one else in the area did. So that's where my parents wanted us to go. So that's where we went. But yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of family in Hanover as well. But yeah, just getting to coach, at the same locker room, the same facility where I got to play. It's a little nostalgic. It's just something I don't ever take for granted. I like this community a lot. Like I said, a lot of family here. Starting my own family here now, so just getting to continue the tradition that we have and try to instill that in the kids in a new way, with the ever changing game and again, yeah, just trying to keep the tradition going and historically I'd say our junior high, we're always the smaller kids. We don't at least in my playing days, we weren't ever the best team. And you could probably look back at the record books. We historically are maybe a 500 team ish in junior high, just because, like I said, we're always a smaller team. So, but I'm trying to figure out a way to make that a positive in our end. I guess when I was playing junior high, we weren't passing the ball a whole lot. We were trying to run the ball, and we were the smaller guys, and we weren't going to power over anybody for the most part. So trying to find ways to get our athletes open in space, and things like that. And just like I said, changing it up a little bit, making it fun, still carrying on the tradition. It's a fun gig.
Probably easier to interact with just people in the town because you probably know everybody and or always have known everybody. And that could be a bad thing at times, being in or
Yeah,
maybe there are some bad things to coach in your hometown, who knows. But yeah, I like the what you're saying though, continuing the tradition in a new way and putting your own spin on things. We didn't play Hanover when I was in junior high, or you guys, but back then nobody was passing the ball, so that's a big change. I guess that's not a huge change for Hoyer because he after
true.
we graduated threw the ball a lot, but
By the way, you're wrong. We played each other in junior high.
oh, we did. You're right. The heck.
You came. Did we go to Baileyville, or did
I
you
know.
just come
Well,
to
we
Hanover?
came to Hanover when we were in seventh grade. Did you guys? Do we
Yeah,
play?
I didn't get to play that game because I had a broken hand or something.
Okay. Did we play you guys in eighth grade too? I don't remember that.
If we did, I don't remember. I don't
Yeah, I
think we
don't
did.
think we played you in eighth grade because yeah,
Probably Mercy ruled us.
no, we I know we went undefeated that year, but we played SPPS, Nemaha Valley, Frankfurt Axtell, like all those. No, Frankfurt didn't. We didn't play Frankfurt because they were still 11 man. Crap, we went 7-0. That's all I remember. But
Yeah.
so this, I kind of ask everybody about this, and you kind of probably already talked about it a little bit. But what separates you guys from other 8-man teams, especially junior high? What do you guys do differently that's different from maybe other teams out there?
Yeah, and I think more and more teams are doing this, especially in today's game. But I guess going back to when I was in school, so my freshman, I touched on this earlier. My freshman and sophomore year, we won state for the first time since 1979, which was a big gap in our school history, without any state football titles. So, and actually, that '79 title, they were playing 11 man yet. So, that was our first 8-man title was when I was in school. But I'd say what gave us the edge then, and what's continued since then was the weight room attendance. Eighth grade year, my older brother Caleb was a senior when we got to the first state title game, and they ended up losing that game. But I'd say coming back that next summer, going into my freshman season, there was everyone on that football team was there lifting weights. Now, I'm not saying that not everyone was that season. Obviously, I was in junior high, and junior high kids, we hardly even got in the weight room in that time. But yeah, so then going into my freshman season, almost everyone on that football team, if not everyone, was there every day, 5 days a week, working out mornings or evenings, depending on when it worked for their schedule. But they were there. So I'd say definitely the weight room, and now we have a junior high lifting program where it's mostly body weight things, and just learning the correct form on how to lift, and so that way when it is their time to lift the weight, they aren't hurting themselves. But we have pretty good junior high attendance as well, in the summers now, and I'm sure, like I said, that's most everywhere now. But I'd say that helps for sure. And then being from a small school, you can play football, you can play basketball. We still have baseball in the summers. When I was in school, I did all of those things. I played summer league basketball while lifting weights in the summers. We had football camp in the summer. We had baseball tournaments, basketball camps. So I mean, I was constantly doing something, and most of the time it was with my teammates, unless it was a camp here or there without them and just by myself. But where we really learned how to gel each other's strengths and weaknesses. We kind of knew what everyone was doing before they were going to do it, and so I think that's what really helped our success. And I think that's something that's happening more and more in today's game and in today's world. And then I guess the other thing, I already talked about this, but as far as the junior high program, I'm just trying to help bridge that gap from junior high to high school. Again, learning the terminology, learning the lingo that the high school uses, so that way when they are freshmen, they can contribute right away. This past season, the high school had 3 freshmen that played significant minutes in their little playoff run that we got to go on, and so that was a confidence booster for me to see that these kids are ready to go, and they can contribute right away. So it just adds depth to our high school program when those kids can perform as freshmen. And then again, our film study, something that we didn't do in the past that we're doing now, and just trying to help those kids understand the right way to watch film when they are in high school, so that way they're not behind on anything. So that's what I'd say has been critical to our success in Hanover.
No, I agree. I think the film study itself really does. Like we were already talking about that earlier. That's definitely something that you see that's not common for all junior high teams. Maybe it obviously is more now, but didn't used to be. Then what you were saying, I never really thought about that, where Hanover has essentially a 30-year gap there between football state championships, and it wasn't they didn't get their first one in 2008. I feel like kids today or the state of Kansas now, they think of Hanover and they think nonstop dominant 8-man football program, and basketball too for that matter. But
I was just sorry to cut you off. Just going to say, as a kid growing up, I always thought we were a basketball school because we had basketball titles in I think 98 and 99 and runner-ups in 2000. And so I thought, man, if we're not going to Hayes, it was a failed season. So, but yeah, like your outside perspective is, yeah, we're a football school now, but anyway, yeah, it's just funny how that perspective changes.
yeah, and I mean, I wanted to kind of talk a little more about that, or maybe just hear your thoughts on it. But I think what separated you guys then, you said the commitment to the weight room, 2007 when they lost to Maxville, reaching the state championship game for the first time in, as you said, years. That's what started that belief, and that belief is what turned into the dedication and commitment and the effort put into getting back there. Now that's the expectation. It's never really changed. Yeah, you guys have had less athletes than you used to have at times here and there, but the expectations never changed since then. At least that's my take on it.
Yeah,
And
correct. And I will add, as far as I say, weight room, we did conditioning drills every day too. So kind of more of a feed the cats, if you will. Not all just in the weight room stuff, but yes, just that overall attendance. And like you're saying, that changed the culture. That is the standard. That's what we want to achieve every year. Not that if we don't get there, it's a completely failed season, but we know we can get there if this is what we do.
I think if the kids know you care, if they know you care, they know you're doing the best you can, you're adapting, you're holding them accountable, you're not running away from coaching. In the end, they're going to do what you ask of them. I know Coach Ayers had said building a program is much easier than sustaining it. But if you've built the culture, caring about your players and not running away from coaching, and if you've had any success in doing that, then that belief will come. And then the players will commit to maintaining that success. And obviously, your kids over time have certainly committed to maintaining that success with the commitment and discipline and buy into the weight room.
And with that success, there could be a lot of pressure. Man, if we don't get there, like I always joke. I had mentioned my senior year, we didn't make the playoffs. That was the first time we didn't make the playoffs in I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look it up, but I still joke every year that I tell Hoyer that I think it was Kansas Pregame Magazine comes out. They still talk about the fluky 2011 season where we didn't make the playoffs. I'm like, man, can we stop talking about it? That was a decade ago now.
Yeah.
But
but
nobody wants to be that 2011 team.
And even then, that had the playoff system been the format with 4 teams making the district back then, you guys would have made it. And I'm sure you guys would have rematched Frankfurt or rematched us, in the second or third round in reality.
Potentially.
Because I forget, you guys lost to Frankfurt, us, Pawnee City, which that didn't matter.
No. But they were a good team that made a good playoff run up in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And
I remember
Thunder Ridge, who you guys played.
Oh, and Thunder Ridge. Yep, that's right. That was the other team. Yeah, so you lost to 2 teams playing for state, Frankfurt, and another deep playoff run team in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And Frankfurt went on to win state in basketball. I mean,
yep.
We won't talk about that either, but we're under the last 4 questions here. Would you talk a little bit more about your offense specifically, though?
Sure. I guess I say it's a spread. Like I said, we're usually the smaller team, so I'm trying to get our faster kids. I feel like we're usually pretty darn athletic kids out in space. So I want to call it more of a balanced spread offense, if you will. I like to run the option. We like to pass it more than most junior high teams probably do. In my passing game, I like to have a check down. I like to have a mid-range route, and I like to have a deep route. Maybe not for every play, but we run some play action. We run the ball still, just trying to get a little creative with how we do it. Like I said, options or mids, or we're just not going to be tight, I formation, run the ball, dive kind of offense. So trying to get our guys out in space and trying to find those matchups and mismatches. And so that's kind of how I like to run it. So I've seen a lot of success with it. My first 2 years combined, 3-11 as a coach. We only scored an average of like 16 points a game in those 2 seasons. We were losing games by about 20 points a game those first 2 seasons, roughly. And so going into my second season, I kind of started to spread them out a little more, but I was still a little more in tight offense under center. Going into my third season, and then obviously my fourth season, we went the other way around. We completely flip-flopped it. We went 11-3, and so 500 record. And we went from scoring, like I said, maybe 20 points a game to about 34-ish points per game the last 2 seasons, with the point differential, overall by about 12, 14 points a game, where we're in the positive, obviously, and compared to the negative. So
It obviously helps though being there for multiple years now. So the kids, it's not new to you. You're not relearning anything. You know what you expect, because even me, I've been head coach for 2 years now only. I changed run and pass concepts throughout my offense just from 1 year, and kind of finally
yeah,
finalized things. But that makes it a difference too, obviously.
yeah, we went from about just over 100 yards passing a game in that second season, with only about 50 rushing yards a game that second season, to now we're throwing for about 140 yards a game roughly in the last 2 seasons, and we're running for about 100 yards a game. So our scoring percentage, by drive, went from 38% in those first 2 years to just under 60% in the last two. So that's where that's just proven that spreading that ball out and kind of going that kind of offense is really been successful for me. So,
Over 100 yards passing per game in junior high, period. Even when I coached junior high up there, there was not that many teams throwing the ball. I mean, even still.
right,
But
right at 1,000 yards passing in 2022. We were on pace for 1,200 yards passing this season. But my starting quarterback got banged up and he missed a couple games, but we ended up just shy of 1,000 yards passing this season as well. So
tell us a little bit more about last year, how things went last year.
sure. As I mentioned, had a successful season. We went 5-2 this past season. Started off 4-0, and the first 2 games we were scoring the ball pretty well. I think we scored 56 points the first game and 60 the second game, which was my 2 highest marks as a coach in junior high. And so, yeah, we were scoring the ball pretty well, playing pretty good defense. The team that we won in the second game against was Washington, who wound up winning the league this year. We ended up beating them 60-14. So, like I said, we were humming the ball pretty well, rolling the first 2 games. Games 3 and 4, I had a couple of players get banged up, but they played through it. The end of the fourth game, one of my better players cracked a rib and then dislocated a shoulder, essentially, is what happened. And so he was done for a couple of weeks. And then I mentioned starting quarterback got banged up, got a concussion that took him out the last 3 games. And then I had one of my better receivers, the guy that got the ball thrown to him a lot, had a broken wrist and played through it, except for the last 2 games he couldn't go. But he was playing out there with a cast on, and it kind of altered, obviously, how you catch the ball. It was his left hand, his dominant hand, that was broken. And so he had a couple more drops there at the end of the year where he just couldn't squeeze it because he had a hand in a cast. But so we ended up the last 3 games, we went 1-2. So we got runner up in the league, which again is a higher mark than we historically achieve at the junior high level here. So still a successful season, just a little disappointing we didn't get to where we probably could have gotten to, but that's the game. Got to learn how to play through injuries, and that's something I got to learn to maybe do a little bit better on. Reflecting on this past season is getting everyone ready to go, step in. I mean, to a certain degree, you can't do that to every single kid, but at the same time, you got to have those backups ready to go. I had some 7th graders stepping in for those injured kids, and they were playing some, maybe on some special teams here or there, but they weren't ever being on the ones for offense or defense, and they were asked to step in, and they did their best, just came up a little bit short. And and I will say that 2 or 3 of those kids that got to be in those starting roles those last 2 or 3 games really did see some big growth from game 5 to game 7, where we ended up winning the last game of the year, game 7, and those kids really did a good job for us. So, but that's on me to get those kids ready to go right away. So that's something I'm going to focus on going into this season. So
Injuries are always a big factor. I mean, any sport, any season, but small town 8-man football. I mean, there's probably nothing harder to adjust to in the middle of a season when you lose one or two guys and you only have 15. Obviously, the more involved in the offense or defense that guy is, the even harder it is. But every 8-man coach knows that. But yeah, definitely at the junior high level, when you got a seventh grader who may never have played the game and an eighth grader gets hurt, here you go. I mean, that's going to be tough no matter what when you lose guys that are eighth graders.
yeah, yeah.
So here we'll go into this next question. Building off last year's success, what are you looking forward to most going into next year?
Yeah, something I look forward to every season as a junior high coach. I look forward to seeing how the 8th grade steps up into new roles from their last year's team. Seeing which kids will take the leadership roles and how quickly they pick things up from last year. I also am excited to teach the new class the game of football. So that's, like I said, it's always not the hows, but the whys. Just the little things that they never think about until it's actually time for them to play football. So I get to explain the game to them very thoroughly, and I enjoy that aspect. So, like I mentioned earlier, very few of our kids play any football before they get to junior high here. So most have a good grasp of the rules and the basic fundamentals, and they get those halfway right. But I get to teach them how to do it, and again why we do it. So that's what I love the most about the junior high coach is 2-year turnover, completely new team every year. You got to make adjustments on the fly every season. Maybe we won't have the most athletic kids one season. We have to do something a little simpler and try to run the ball a little more, whatever the case may be. But I like as a junior high coach that challenge of every year is a new season, which that is for everyone too, for high school included. But just it's quicker turnaround. So yeah, seeing how much those kids that first year they play it, coming back into year 2, how much they remember and how quickly they pick things up, and seeing who leads. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, junior high coach, I mean, that's got to be one of the most important roles in any football program is how ready are these kids going to be when they get to high school? And like you said, it is tough. Yes, you're right also. Every team has a new team every year, but yeah, yours is completely new. But like you said, teaching the why, that's the most important thing. I think if anybody's not teaching why you're doing this, then you got it wrong. You reteach
Right.
it. Teach why they're doing it, and then they won't even be asking that question. They'll know. Last question though. What's your biggest piece of advice to any current or upcoming football coaches out there?
For me, it's to be good at what you do, you have to love what you do. If you're coaching or playing football, you have to love it to be good at it. Love what you do. Stick to your guns. No one knows your team's strengths or weaknesses quite like you do as the coach. So, keep any of that outside noise outside. Don't internalize it. Just stick to your guns. And then keep learning and adjusting. Like I just mentioned, it's every team's different every year, but not only team by team, but game by game. What are we struggling with doing? Let's make an adjustment this next week and let's make it better. Those little intricacies, little ripples on the offense or things like that we could do differently. Keep learning, keep growing, keep adapting. Especially at the junior high level, you have to make the game fun. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be a game. Football is, so we want to be serious. We want to teach them how serious the game can be and should be, but at the same time, still have fun. I like to, when we're watching film, like point out something silly that happened at the game or lightly throw a jab at them for, why'd you false start there? I don't know, make some kind of joke. Just keep it light, keep it fun. Because at the end of the day, if it's not fun, they're not gonna stick out playing football if they're questioning it. So, and then that it's okay to be their friend as long as they respect you and everyone else around them, their teachers, their friends, their classmates, their teammates. Now I say you can be their friend, but what I mean is a good friend keeps everyone accountable. So, they'll call each other out if someone needs to step up or you know, like I said, it's kind of keeping it light, keeping it fun, but again, being respectful about it. Um, and yeah, if they respect themselves and you, they'll respect everyone else around them. That'd be my advice.
I like what you said though, keep learning and adapting. Love what you do. You got to be in it for the kids. First of all, have fun and love what you do, but yeah, continue to learn and adapt. Unfortunately, there's still coaches out there, and I'm not talking just football coaches, but all levels are not doing that. But yeah, and I like what you said too. I mean, we can always be friendly towards them. You can be a friendly coach without crossing the line and being their friend, 100%. And same thing as a teacher. Hold them expectations high, hold them accountable, like you said. But definitely in junior high, more than others, it's very important to have that relationship built and for them to have fun and enjoy being around you in the game. That way they stick it out and come back out in high school. So.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for doing this. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I always love talking football, and it's the Super Bowl was a couple weeks ago now, so it's time to get back football in the brain. So,
Yeah. Yep. Been a while. And that's going to do it for this episode of the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. If you ever have a question for me, feel free to comment down below on this video or visit my bio to shoot me an email. If you've learned anything or enjoy any of these videos, please click subscribe and check out some of my other videos right here. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in.